Hey, welcome to the TVP channel, and today we do have a final game, which is the Vanquisher against the Grid. It'll be a best of 3 and the Vanquisher will go first this game. Actually riding into the niche clone here, looking at top 7. And he does hit into his Vanquisher, so a free +1 and a Grid does unfortunately G-assist in this game, but he does hit into his niche clone here, riding into it, but he has to discard 2 for the G-assist. But with the new overdress mechanic, this might not happen again. Not might, it's not gonna happen again. So he just revealed the top cards to the opponent. But his top 7 does miss a search, so very unfortunate for him, and does swing the Vanguard simply like this. Will there be a guard? Actually a 15k shield will be forced out here. Now how will the Vanquisher actually play out? He does strike to the Chatura here, and looks like there will be no further commitments. And will be swinging just with the dry check, but he does eat into a crit here, so very strong, simple 2 damage, and the opponent will ride into the Algovel here, looking at top 3 to decide to call yet another Algovel. But unfortunately the Array Guard skill doesn't have the free top 3 call, and he does call the Great Gesture here from the Gogit player, hitting to the Sagramo, discarding the Quick Shield. He does decide to swing with the Great Searcher first, which is a 10k guard, given that 2 units has been caught this turn. And he does swing the Vanguard straight away. Withdraw check into any triggers, none at all, and the opponent does eat into a draw trigger here, but he does use the Algovel skill to actually bounce the Grade 3 or the Great Searcher into the soul and bounce Algovel back to hand. And this leaves himself no fuel at all for the Vanquisher to actually interact with him. So this is a very heads up play by the Gogit player, because against Vanquisher you do not want to have any regard for him to bind, and they may have quite a hard time actually hitting to the 3 buying zone. But let's not forget that Full Bonto exists, so Full Bonto is a card that allows Vanquisher to actually hit into their early game strike, or rather their early game pressure. And 15k shield will be forced out against the Vanquisher here for a 2 to pass. Try checking into a Chatura and a draw trigger yet again, and that's pump the power to the Cho. And the Jaggy Shark will be the activator for the Full Bronto, as he discards the Full Bronto here, allowing him to superior ride, but he does draw 1 first through the Jaggy Shot. And now he's able to discard 1 card to gain 1 Excel Circle, allowing him to draw 1 more card. And Full Bronto does give 10k to the front row, and Jaggy Shot will be a 15k guard. And Jaggy Shot will go into the soul to draw 1 more card, and Narukami does have a lot of cycle to do. And actually the Cho will swing first for 25k guard, no, actually a 30k guard. And now the Full Bronto will swing, allowing the Cho to actually use the skill to restand to swing again, and this will be a 20k guard given the damage trigger has been eaten. But the Gogit does eat to 5 damage, and he's quite in the danger zone here, and he does strike into the Gogit here to hope for a comeback. But from my knowledge, Gogit doesn't really have a strong first strike, as they do need to farm the Excel markers first. But he does call the Sagramo first to actually start things off, to call the Dindrain to Soul Blast 1 more card to draw 1. And do note that anything superior caught this turn will gain plus 5k for each Excel Circle due to the Gogit skill. And that's called the Grade 3 Percival here to actually gain 1 Excel marker, because why not? And then he can superior call Algovel from deck or the drop zone. And now he does call another Algovel here, and the aggressive turn will begin. Swinging aside with the Percival first to add a Cho. And now does actually decide to swing the Sagramo, but reconsider actually using the Algovel first to actually bounce the Percival back to the soul and bounce him to hand. And the 15k guard will be thrown out, and now we'll be using the Sagramo column and the Algovel column yet again to bounce himself back to hand, and so charging this Sagramo. And now this will, the Vanquisher actually eat the damage here, and the Gogit will be swinging the Vanguard using his skill to look at top 5 to superior call 2 more units. It looks like it's a 4 trigger and 1 Dindrain, so he does only superior call the Dindrain. And how will the Vanquisher actually guard this turn? Given that the Gogit is at 22k power, so 25k shield is shown and 2 to pass. So he does draw with the Dindrain skill first, and a Twin Drive into a double blank unfortunately, and this might be game over against Vanquisher because he does need a heal, and the Vanquisher will have 3 Excel Circles if he does have another Vanquisher, right? He doesn't have it, but he does call the Rock Climber here and use the Vanquisher skill straight up to bind one card from each player hand and one on the field. Which in this case it does bind the Chatura, and a double Phoenix from the drop zone will be superior card, and the Jagged Shot combo is superior card here, and this should be game. The Grid skill does proc here to actually guard for the Vanguard attack, which is in this case actually 22k, because he does hit the 3 bind zone already with the skill. Twin Drive will begin here, heading to a huge trigger here, and does decide to pump the power actually on the Rock Climber. But the thing is, the opponent haven't thrown the PG yet, but he does show the good read here. And there seems to be a lot more attacks, and does use the Rock Climber to swing first. And the opponent does concede. And now we'll be moving on to game 2, and the Gurgit will go first now. Riding to the knees clone once again, if you're not wrong, is Jeffrey. And looking at top 7 here, and missing the search once again. Very unlucky for him, and he does strike into his own grade 1 knees clone here for the Vanquisher side. And will he be able to hit to the Vanquishers? So you look at the top 7 first. And we do see a Vanquisher in hand, and he does hit it once again. No further commitments will be done. Try checking into another Vanquisher here, not exactly what the thing you want to see. And the opponent will be riding to the Ergovel here using the skill straight up. And actually does call the grade 2 Drain clone, I would say, because he can use Soul Blast 1 to actually counter charge 1. And that will be it for the turn. Try checking into a blank but a Perceiver here, and a quick damage trigger is received on the Vanquisher side, and the turn is passed. The opponent does try into Cho. You're actually using a skill to actually kill off the grade 2 Drain clone to actually deter the aggressiveness from the turn 3 play from the Grid. But he does hit the draw trigger here, very fortunate for him. And how will the Grid player actually play out his turn? He does actually decide to ride the Perceiver first, given that the Perceiver skill does allow him to actually give 5k power to those rearguards on the XL circles, so they do pack a punch. And he's able to proc the skill here to actually gain 1 more XL circle and call the Ergovel. So this turn is a farming turn for him, and he's able to actually push damage quite reliably without committing too much rearguards. Let's call the Ergovel not on the non-XL circle. Now he does call the Sagarmaw to Soul Blast 1 to draw 1 card. And what will he be superior calling? He does actually superior call the grade 2 Drain clone once again to actually counter charge most likely. And now he does call another Ergovel, and with 2 Ergovel on the field and 2 additional rearguards, he's able to actually bounce the whole field back to hand, or rather actually make it a very empty field for the Vanquisher, as he'll be damage rating here. Do note that every rearguard he's hitting for now is actually 15k guard minimum from all of them. What a actually strong grid return from the performed by the grid player here. Does into a damage trigger here, but a 5k guard will still be required. So as you can see, actually soul charging the other 2 units, and the 2 Ergovel will bounce back to hand. And this leaves an empty field for the Vanquisher, and I mentioned in the previous game, against Vanquisher you do want to have an empty field. Having an empty field against Vanquisher does make them quite hard to actually hit the 10k power from the Vanquisher skill. But again, if he does have full Bronto, that will be fixed. So he does have 2 Jagged Shot and 1 Rock Climber here, and a Lost Cycle will begin. And the Rock Climber will swing first for a 5k guard, and a 5k shield will be thrown, using a skill to actually draw 1 and bind 1 card from hand. It does bind the Chatura, superior calling it, and now does swing with the Vanguard for 15k 2 to pass, and a full Bronto is seen here, a double at that. And the Jagged Shot most likely will be binding the full Bronto from hand to draw 1 first, and now he will discard 1 card to gain the XL circle upon the superior right to draw back the 1 card. And now this will be a 15k guard, and the Grid does eat into a damage trigger here. A draw trigger for him, very lucky, given that the last game he didn't eat any damage trigger at all. And the Jagged Shot will draw 1 upon his skill. And now the full Bronto most likely will be swinging first for 22k power, and a no guard will be announced here. And he does eat into another draw trigger, or rather a damage trigger, making a 32k Vanguard, and the Jagged Shot will be done or be swinging here to actually just cycle more to the deck, binding the Vanquisher in hand. Given that it's only 22k, so it's a draw 1 more card. But the Chatura is actually hitting for 33k here, so it will be a 5k guard, and a Drain will be discarded. And now the Grid turn. Given that previous turn was his farm turn, this should be the kill turn. We should see how Gurgit will be performed here. He does run into the Gurgit first to start things off to gain 1 Excel Circle, and then Koi another Perceiver here to gain 1 more Excel Circle, as he does check the drop zone for the amount of Aggro he does have seen out. It looks like he's out of Aggro in the deck, and he does Super Core from the drop zone. And now he does call another Aggro here, and a Great Tree Searcher, putting behind the Percival, looking at top 5. And the cards you want to see is actually Sagarmaw or the Great Tree Dragon, and he does hit into the Sagarmaw here. And now what will he be discarding? He does discard a Jeffrey here, which doesn't really put much use. But he does Super Call the Sagarmaw. Actually, Soul Blast too, because he's going to Superior Call another Sagarmaw. Man, this guy is popping off. And Superior Calling a Dindrain to Soul Blast 1 more to draw 1. And those Soul Charge this Soul Charge can happen because of the Aggro. So he does commit another Great Tree Searcher here, and does hit to the Great Tree Dragon here, and this will be the optimal turn for him, and this should be lethal against the Vanquisher. So he does swing the Sagarmaw first, which doesn't have the buff yet at all. It's just a 17k, and the 10k guard will be required. And now he does swing with the big column. Not exactly big, but just a 20k guard. Or the 15k guard, sorry. And now the Aggro will swing to bounce 2 hand. Many shoes will be required here, and this Sagarmaw is quite a big boy, even as super caught by the Sagarmaw. And this Aggro is actually quite a big boy as well. And the Vanquisher will be forced to eat the damage here, and he's now using the Gurgit skill, and anything he superior calls this turn will gain 20k power. And he does call the Great Searcher and another Percival. He does go for the Twin Drive here, pumping to the Percival. 1 trigger so far, not exactly the best. And he does swing with the Great Searcher here, which will be hitting for a big 18k plus 20, actually a 38k just like that. Man, the Vanquisher will be eating the 5th damage here, and the Perceiver is a big boy, and the 40k will be forced out, and the Dragon will super core more units from hand. If he does have the Wonder Ezra, which he does, and this is game. Now we do move on to game 3, and it's a 1-1 score right now. We shall see how well this game will go. And the Vanquisher actually riding to the Nis clone here, so does the Gurgit player. So the Gurgit player is playing a bit speed up here, apologies for that. And they both hit to their Great Trees here. And it's given that Gurgit is going second here, he will be attacking first. Actually dry checking into a draw trigger here. Things are looking good for him. Now riding the Troll, and no further commitment will be done, and swing at the Vanguard. A 15k shield will be forced out as well, but he has opened a heal that doesn't go off. Very unfortunate for the Vanquisher player, and the Aggro will be ridden here, but with no Corner Blast, it will just be a simple swing. Try checking into a Wonder Ezell. You do want to see Wonder Ezell in your hand as a Gurgit player, because it's such a super strong card that extends your combo. But the Vanquisher will be ridden here, and the Jackie Shot will just be caught simply like this to cycle onto the deck. And it does call the Great One Chatura clone, or rather the Great One Nis, that's just superior calls upon binding it. Jackie Shot will go into the soul to draw 1 card. Just a simple cycle here. And the Vanquisher will be swinging for no guard here. 2 Chaturas, and very unfortunate that he would rather have bind those Chatura instead of the Great One seen in the Excel circle. And now we shall see how the Gurgit will actually play out his turn. Will we see another farm turn? Actually no, he will just be riding into the Gurgit here straight up. But he does have the Perceiver here, using his skill to discard the Gurgit in hand and going for the Excel circle. And calling the Aggro from the deck. Man, this deck is just super strong. As much as I don't want to see this deck anymore, but we won't be able to see anymore when Overdress comes. And the Dindrain will be here to actually Soul Blast to draw 1, and the aggressiveness turn will begin by Perceiver swing, and the Wonder Ezell will be swinging for another 5k guard. So a slight misplay here from the Vanquisher player is that he should actually just opt to actually eat the first damage here, given that there's so many 5k to 10k pokes. And if he does eat to a damage trigger straight up on the first damage, he will not be able to required to actually guard those attacks, and we do see actually a damage trigger here. So do always eat your first damage if the opponent first next 3 attacks, or rather the next 2 attacks will be a 5 to 10k guard, given that you can save quite a number of shields. And we'll be super calling that actually the Jeffrey and the Great Sister, which are both 18k attackers as of now, but not forgetting that Gurgit does give 10k power to them, so they are both hitting for 28k against the 22k Vanquisher, so both are 10k guards. And does guard one of them and does eat one of it. And now how will the Vanquisher actually play out his turn, given that he does survive the first Great 3 turn, and now riding into another Vanquisher, will we be able to witness the amount of Jaggy shots? He does straight away use the Vanquisher skill after calling the Phoenix. They actually superior call the Chatura here, and the Phoenix is superior call like this. I'm not too sure about the ruling here, but can anyone actually explain to me if that was possible? I believe it's a mistiming here, but it is what it is. And the opponent does twin drive with a double blank here. And this is actually a very simple turn from the Vanquisher player. Not much pressure on the Gurgit player, and the Gurgit player should be able to end the game in the next turn. And this Vanquisher, or rather this Chatura is a big boy, but it's not enough for the Gurgit player. Gurgit will ride into another Gurgit here, gaining yet another Excel Circle, and if he does have the second possible, this will be a 20k buff unit this turn. Most likely he does have it. He does Super Call the Wonder Exerfer to Super Call Nin Drain to Soul Blast on to draw 1 card. And he does have the Percival, a very talented player, and now he does go for the skill to discard 1 card to draw 1 because of the XL2, and he's able to Superior Call the Agovel once again. And he have so much things happening on the field. He does call the Grade 3 Max Slash Dragon here, and then calling the Agovel. Now Wonder Exerfer will begin first by poking, and he does swing the Din Drain column, which is a small column, and the Vanquisher does eat the first damage here, and Agovel will be swinging for at least a 15k guard. And this is a big column, given that Din Drain does get a 20k buff, and the Narukami is at 5 damage here, but he does eat to a damage trigger, which might help to lighten the load, but given Gurgit's buff of 20k power is actually very strong, actually not even using the Gurgit skill yet, using the Max Slash Dragon to actually Super Call the Din Drain, to Super Call the Wonder Exo to the Wonder Exo to the Great 2 Din Drain, sorry, and actually to counter charge. And the counter charge will be very helpful for the Gurgit to use his skill, and 6 damage is inflicted, and this is game. Thank you for watching to the end, and do consider subscribing and dropping a like and a comment if you do enjoy the content.